Welcome and thanks for stopping by. We're going to spend a little time today talking about the general manager. The interesting thing about the general managers, the reason it's named general, is that they manage things they've never done before. Otherwise, we would call it the specific manager. So the general manager plays an interesting part in making organizations work. And it's particularly challenging, again, because they're managing things they probably have had very little exposure to. Among top jobs, if you think of board positions and the C-suite functional heads, where you find general managers generally are in division and geographic managers, or in product and service line managers. You generally won't find general managers in technical R&D. Those tend to be functional heads. When you think of the kinds of general managers, there are two dimensions that you want to check. The first is whether they have P&L responsibility or profit and loss. Obviously, if you have independent profit and loss responsibilities, it's a much more serious position. And then the second dimension is strategic choice. And the issue is, are you aligned with the organizational general strategy, or are you an independent unit? So if you're a country general manager in a new market where your products and services are dealt with differently in the market, you may in fact be independent from a strategic standpoint. Your sponsoring organization may be in a fix-it or a turnaround, and you're in a startup situation, which is quite different from a strategy standpoint. So there's 4 different kinds of general managers, and the most difficult is if you have P&L responsibility and you're strategically independent. And if you just name those 4 different kinds of general managers, 1, 2, 3, 4, level 4 is the one that takes the most talent. Now, if you think about the skills needed for a general manager, we have looked at and analyzed the job descriptions and responsibilities and accountabilities of general managers and all top jobs. And we have found that there are 5 talent sets, 5 buckets of things that people have to be good at. And we have labeled those things SORTI, S-O-R-T-I, just so it would be easy to remember. And if you think about top jobs in general, S is for strategic. So all top jobs have a strategic aspect or facet to them. And it has to do with vision and mission and purpose and values and, in some sense, culture. So S in SORTI stands for strategic accountabilities. The O stands for operational, and there have to be people around to carry out the strategies. So there is a group of people, top managers usually, that do the strategic planning and strategic positioning, and then it's left to a whole cadre of operational officers that make things work. The R stands for relationship management. There's an awful lot of relationships to be managed for an organization to flourish. So you've got outside stakeholders, you've got institutional investors, you have regulators, you have political issues to deal with, community relations, and then the whole internal issue of customer interface. So there's the R has to do with a bunch of accountabilities and responsibilities in relationship manager. The T stands for deep technical, and every company, every organization has a technical core. It may be internet websites, it may be quantum physics, it may be fertilizer, it may be logistics, as in the case of Kmart or Walmart or Costco. So every organization, in order to flourish, has to have deep technical accountabilities in top management to make technical decisions. The R is then relationships, and the T is technical, and the I is international. I learned in my 60 years of working with companies that successful international executives are pretty rare. So this is somebody who's out of their home country, functioning in an environment that they have not functioned in before, having to do with local culture, unique political systems, and even advertising regulations. When I was with Pepsi, we were in the middle of the Pepsi Challenge. All of our advertising had to do with comparing Pepsi products to Coke. And in Canada, you cannot mention a competitor in an ad. At least at that time, you couldn't. So marketing is different, logistics is different, lots of things are different. Now, if you think about where SORTI is used, so you say, all right, strategic skills. Well, that's mostly the CEO, the CMO, the chief marketing officers. It's probably an M&A, mergers and acquisitions. It's in the strategy unit if there is one. It could be somewhat in R&D. So where the S of SORTI is used is primarily in those decisions. If you look at the O, it's just large-scale operations and logistics, getting stuff done, large-scale jobs, doing routine things well over and over again. And it usually has the most people attached to it. So in the company, you may have very few strategic top managers responsible for vision, and you may have hundreds of operational executors. The R, the relationship, is found in things like PR, customer service, HR, shareholder relationships, vendor management, supplier management, investor relations, and lobbying. Deep T, of course, is in R&D. That's where the core products and services are designed. And then the I tends to be in global management. Now, what's interesting about SORTI is you would think a general manager would have to have all of those things. And I think that's a flaw in our thinking. And the reason I say that is taking a look at the relationships among the 5 talent sets. There's a very low correlation, for instance, between someone who's strategically strong and someone who's operationally strong. There's also not a very high correlation between the people who are doing high-level strategy, like Elon Musk or at Apple, Steve Jobs, and being able to do smooth relationships. So the head strategic people tend not to be good at relating. And then the deep functional people tend not to be good at operations. So if you take a look at the intercorrelations of those 5 things, the SORTI talent sets, there's not much of a relationship. So it's very unlikely that a single general manager would be good at all those things. Now, every up-and-coming high potential or pro potential in the succession planning system has a SORTI profile. So you could evaluate each up-and-coming person who you believe is going to be a future general manager and say, well, is strategy their strength? Operations their strength? Are they very good at relationship management? Are they good technically? Are they good international executives? So every individual has a SORTI profile. Every position has a SORTI profile. So if we've got a new market in Brazil, that market will have a profile that says, well, what would work in Brazil right now? Is it strategic orientation? Is it operationally strong? Does it need a different use of the products and services we offer? So there's a technical input. Is it relationship management with a difficult government? So every position a future top manager will get to has a different profile related to it. Now, the thing I want you to think about in general managers is it is unlikely that you're going to get a general manager who's strong across sorting. So when you're doing succession planning and development of top officers, every high potential candidate is going to be strong on one or two or three of the five. It would be hard to imagine somebody good at them all. For that reason, it's important for a general manager. Now, in order to become a general manager, you will have to have made your career on some aspect of sorting. It's either been strategic contributions, operational, relationship. So to be an outstanding, legendary general manager, you need to be able to team build. And that takes self-awareness. A general manager has to know what their sortie profile is and what the job requires, and then build a team that covers the areas that the new general manager is not strong in. The second set of skills that a legendary general manager needs is listening and delegation skills. So if you're a general manager, remember you're managing things you've never done before. So a general manager may have a legal component, HR, PR, operations, marketing, sales, manufacturing, and may have never been in those functions ever. So they've got to be good listeners, and very few people who get up to that level, by the way, as we all know, are listeners. So the other thing you need is delegation, because you have to admit what you're not outstanding at. And if you're a team builder and bring on people who cover your sortie characteristics that you're not good at, then you need to be able to delegate. And one of the issues of delegating that managers talk to us about is trusting that the people they're delegating to can do the job well, and that's where team building comes in. So the general manager job is very complex, but I think it would help us all to stop thinking about a general manager that's good across sortie. You're going to have different types of general managers with different strength sets, and then you have to build around them with team building, listening, and delegating. So very important to your future, very important to your organization, and I think we need to get a little bit deeper on our understanding of a general manager.